Story 1, The Backward Mile. The thermometer read 43 below when Marcus Kettleman realized he'd passed the same avalanche warning sign 11 times in the last hour. Not 11 similar signs. The same sign. Mile marker 207 on the Dalton Highway, with the identical pattern of rust bleeding down from the bolts and the bullet hole through the second A in avalanche. His logbook said he'd covered 63 miles since Coldfoot. The odometer agreed, but the landscape kept serving him that same stretch of black ice and mountain shadow, that same goddamn sign emerging from his headlights every 5 minutes like a sick magic trick. Marcus had been hauling freight up to Deadhorse for 9 years. He knew every twist of this road, every treacherous grade, every place where the permafrost buckled the asphalt into teeth that could shred a tire. This wasn't fatigue. This wasn't possible. He keyed his CB radio. Static answered, thick and wet-sounding, like someone breathing through fluid-filled lungs. Channel 19 should have been chattering with night haulers, but the static had a rhythm to it, almost like words played backward. The sign appeared again in his high beams. Mile 207. The bullet hole seemed bigger this time, or maybe closer, as if the sign had moved several feet toward the road. Marcus's hands were sweating inside his insulated gloves despite the cold seeping through the Kenworth's cabin. His chest felt tight. He'd been driving for what his watch claimed was 72 minutes, but his phone insisted only 11 minutes had passed since Coldfoot. He tried to focus on something, anything normal. The load behind him, drilling equipment for the North Slope oilfields, 42,000 pounds secured with chains he'd checked twice. The chains were still there. He could hear them settling occasionally as he navigated the turns, but between the diesel engine's rumble and the studded tires chewing ice, he kept hearing something else. A metallic scraping that seemed to come from underneath the trailer. Marcus told himself it was ice buildup, told himself he'd stop at the next pull-off and check it, but when the sign appeared for the 13th time, there was something new. A truck was parked on the shoulder beyond it, a Peterbilt dark blue with Alberta plates. Not running, no lights, just sitting there in the murderous cold like an abandoned toy. Marcus's foot hovered over the brake. In his side mirror, he watched the Peterbilt recede into darkness. Then his headlights found the sign again. Mile 207. And the Peterbilt was ahead of him once more in the exact same position. His radio crackled. "You're stuck in it now." The voice was his own. Same rough timbre from 30 years of cigarettes and diesel fumes, same slight rasp. "Been here 3 days, Marcus, or 3 minutes, can't tell anymore." Marcus grabbed the radio, his hands shaking hard enough that he nearly dropped the receiver. "Who the hell is this?" "Check your left mirror," his own voice said through the static. "Really look at yourself." He didn't want to, every instinct screamed not to. But his eyes betrayed him, sliding to the mirror mounted on the driver's door. His reflection stared back. Same weathered face, same gray beard, same company cap. Except his reflection's lips weren't moving. His reflection's lips were sewn shut with what looked like wire, crude stitches that dimpled the flesh, and his reflection's eyes were completely black, not just the pupils, but the entire eye, like someone had filled the sockets with ink. Marcus jerked his head away, his heart slamming against his ribs. His actual lips worked fine, no wire, no stitches. He ran his tongue over his teeth, tasted copper. When he looked back at the mirror, his reflection was normal again. The sign appeared, Mile 207, but this time there were 2 Peterbilts parked on the shoulder. The second one was a Kenworth, red and chrome, exactly like his truck. "No," Marcus whispered, but he knew. He could see the company logo on the Kenworth's door, could see his own unit number, 447. Which meant he was driving something else. Marcus looked down at the steering wheel in his hands. It was covered in ice, not frost from the cold. Ice thick and blue-green growing from the plastic like crystals spreading across the dashboard in fractal patterns. The temperature gauge showed the engine temperature dropping, 180, 160, 140. The heater was blasting, but the air coming from the vents smelled like snow and something organic, something rotten beneath the cold. He grabbed his phone. No signal, but that was normal up here. What wasn't normal? The date said February 19th, 2017. 6 years ago. Marcus's wife Linda had still been alive in February 2017. She died that September, an aneurysm while she was making dinner, gone before the ambulance arrived. The radio spoke again in his voice. The road keeps whatever doesn't finish the loop. You have to complete it, Marcus, but the loop's gotten longer, it's hungry. The mile marker appeared again, but the number had changed. Mile 208, progress. Marcus felt a surge of desperate hope, then he saw what was standing next to the sign. A person, woman-shaped, wearing Linda's blue winter coat, the one he'd donated to Goodwill 2 years ago because he couldn't stand seeing it in the closet. The figure's face was turned away, looking north up the highway, but he knew with absolute certainty that if it turned around, it would have Linda's face. "Don't look at it," he told himself, but the words came out of his mouth and simultaneously came through the radio in his own voice, like an echo that arrived before the sound. Mile 209. The figure was closer to the road now, still facing away. There were 3 abandoned trucks on the shoulder. He recognized the third one, a battered freightliner that belonged to Dale Horvath, a driver he'd known for years. Dale had disappeared on the Dalton last winter. They'd found his truck near Adigun Pass, engine still running, no sign of Dale except his wedding ring sitting on the dashboard. Marcus's own fingers felt strange. He looked down. The skin on his left hand was gray, mottled, the veins standing out black beneath the surface. Frostbite. But he could still feel the hand, could still move the fingers, even as they took on the color and texture of a corpse left in the snow. Mile 210. The figure in Linda's coat stood at the road's edge now. Marcus could see blonde hair spilling from the hood. Linda's hair. The abandoned trucks numbered 7 now, stretching back into the darkness like a parking lot. His radio, "If you stop, you stay. If you keep driving, you stay. The road decides when you're done." But there had to be a way out. There was always a way out. Marcus had survived whiteouts that dropped visibility to 0, had nursed trucks with blown turbos across 100 miles of nothing, had walked away from a jackknife on black ice that should have killed him. He was a survivor. Mile 211, the figure turned around. It did have Linda's face. Exactly Linda's face, down to the small scar on her chin from a childhood bike accident. But her expression was wrong, stretched too wide, and her eyes held the same bottomless black as his mirror reflection. Her mouth opened, and she spoke with his voice. 3 days, Marcus. You've been driving 3 days. Your body's still at mile 207, froze to the seat. They'll find you in spring. Bullshit, Marcus said. But his gray hand was completely numb now, and the ice on the steering wheel had spread to the seats, the ceiling, coating the cabin's interior in crystalline patterns that looked almost like words in a language that predated language. Mile 212. There were dozens of trucks now, a graveyard of them, and figures standing among them. He recognized some, Dale Horvath, Terry Munson, who'd vanished 3 years back. Others he didn't know, all wearing clothes from different eras, stretching back decades, all with black eyes, all watching him pass. The dashboard temperature gauge hit 0 and kept falling, -20, -40, -60. The numbers shouldn't go that low. The engine should have seized. But the truck kept rolling forward, and Marcus couldn't feel his legs anymore, couldn't feel anything below his waist. When he looked down, his jeans were white with frost, the fabric stiff as cardboard. Mile 213. The Linda thing walked alongside his truck now, keeping pace impossibly, her black eyes locked on his. "The loop's almost complete," she said with his voice. 17 more miles, then you can rest, then you can stay." Marcus tried to scream, but the sound that emerged from his throat was the wet static from the radio, the backward-talking voice. His reflection in the side mirror showed his lips sewn shut now, really sewn, the wire glinting in the dashboard lights. But he could still feel his mouth open, still feel his tongue moving. 2 realities existing simultaneously, both equally true. Mile 214. He couldn't feel the steering wheel anymore. His fingers had frozen to it, the gray flesh merged with the ice-covered plastic. The road ahead looked different. Not the familiar Dalton highway, but something older, something that had been here before the road, a path worn into the permafrost by something that had been traveling this route for centuries. The abandoned trucks were gone. In their place stood wooden sleds, half buried in drifts. Then beyond those, stone markers covered in symbols that hurt to look at. The road was showing him its history, peeling back to reveal what had always been here, what would always be here. Mile 215. More figures walked alongside the truck now, dozens of them, a procession of the lost. They pressed agains. The passenger door, their frozen hands leaving prints on the glass that glowed faintly blue. Marcus tried to swerve away, but the steering wheel wouldn't turn. Or maybe his frozen hands wouldn't turn it. He couldn't tell the difference anymore. His phone rang. Marcus stared at it, wedged in the cup holder. The screen said Linda Mobile, which was impossible because he'd canceled that line 6 years ago. The photo showed Linda smiling at the beach in Mexico, their 20th anniversary trip, but her eyes in the photo were black pits. He didn't answer. The phone kept ringing. On the 19th ring, it stopped, and a voicemail notification appeared. Marcus watched his gray, frozen finger reach out and tap the screen, watched it happen like he was observing someone else's hand. Linda's voice, "Hi, honey, you're not picking up. I'm just calling to tell you I'm waiting at mile 230. We're all waiting. It's warm here, you'll see, just keep driving, don't try to turn around. The road doesn't like that. Love you." The message ended with a wet clicking sound, like ice cracking. Mile 216. Marcus could see his breath now, great clouds of it, but each exhale took longer to inhale after. His lungs felt crystallized, the alveoli turning to frost. The medical part of his brain knew that meant death, but that part was getting quieter, drowned out by the static that seemed to originate from inside his own skull. The figures kept pace with the truck. He recognized more faces now, not just vanished drivers but people from his past. His father, who died 20 years ago. His cousin Jamie, killed in Iraq in 2004. They walked with the same measured stride, their black eyes reflecting his headlights. Mile 217. The road began to curve, which it never did through this section. The curve tightened, spiraling slowly inward like a nautilus shell. Marcus tried the brakes. His leg wouldn't respond. Or maybe there was no leg anymore, just the idea of a leg, the memory of flesh that had frozen and shattered hours or days or years ago. The speedometer showed him accelerating, 65, 70, 80 miles per hour. But the landscape barely moved. The procession of figures could still keep up, walking leisurely beside his truck as it hurtled forward through space that had stopped meaning anything. His radio crackled with a new voice. Old, wet, speaking a language he didn't know but somehow understood. The road hungers, the road remembers, the road keeps. Mile 218. The spiral tightened. Marcus could see his own truck's taillights ahead of him now, impossibly, the Kenworth chasing itself in a loop that defied physics. He was catching up to himself. In the cab of the truck ahead, he could see the driver, Marcus Kettleman, frozen gray, sewn lips, black eyes, hands fused to the wheel. That was his future, or his past, or his present already happened, always happening. Mile 219. The two trucks were merging, occupying the same space, and Marcus existed in both simultaneously. He was the frozen corpse and the dying driver, both states collapsed into one quantum nightmare. His radio spoke with a chorus of voices now all his own from different moments. Can't stop, won't stop. The road decides. 3 days, 3 years, 3 centuries. The road keeps. The Linda thing appeared directly ahead, standing in the middle of the highway. Marcus couldn't swerve, couldn't brake. The truck hit her at 80 miles per hour, and she exploded into a cloud of ice crystals that poured through the vents, into his mouth, his nose, his eyes. He tasted metal and rot and something far older, the flavor of permafrost that had been frozen since before humanity existed. Mile 220. The road straightened. The procession was gone. The abandoned trucks were gone. Everything looked normal, just the Dalton Highway, black ice, the Brooks Range looming in the darkness. Marcus's hands were flesh-colored again. The ice on the dashboard had vanished. The temperature gauge read 190. Normal. He could feel his legs, could feel his lungs expanding without the crackle of frost. His phone said the date was November 17th, 2023. The correct date. His watch agreed. The logbook showed he'd covered 63 miles from Coldfoot. A sign emerged from the darkness. Mile marker 238, progress, real progress. Marcus laughed, a sound like breaking glass. He'd made it. Whatever had happened, whatever nightmare loop he'd been trapped in, he'd escaped. The road had let him go. His radio crackled. "Dead Horse Depot, this is Unit 447 requesting check-in." His own voice, but younger, clearer. He grabbed the receiver. "This is 447, who is this?" Silence, then, "Marcus, Jesus, Marcus Kettleman, you're alive." "Of course I'm alive. Who the hell is this?" "It's Danny Reeves, from Dispatch. Marcus, you've been missing for TW. Oh, weeks. They found your truck at mile 207, engine still running. They found you frozen in the driver's seat." A long pause. "We buried you 5 days ago." Marcus looked at his hands on the steering wheel, looked at the highway stretching endlessly ahead, the same repeating pattern of ice and darkness, looked at his reflection in the side mirror. His lips were sewn shut. His eyes were black. And in the distance, barely visible, he could see the sign emerging from the darkness once more. Mile marker 207. The bullet hole through Avalanche looked bigger, closer. The loop was starting again, and this time Marcus understood with perfect crystalline clarity he would never deliver his load. He would never reach Dead Horse. He would drive this same spiral of highway forever, dying and driving and dying again, until the road decided it had fed enough. His radio spoke in a chorus of voices, all variations of his own, from all the times he'd driven this loop before, from all the times he would drive it again. "The road keeps, the road keeps, the road keeps." Marcus tried to scream, but no sound emerged from his sewn lips. His foot pressed the accelerator. The truck rolled forward. The sign approached. Mile 207. Again. Always. Forever. Story 2, the sleeper load. The reefer unit should have been keeping the trailer at 38 degrees Fahrenheit, but when Vanessa Drake checked the temperature display at the Yukon River pull-off, it read negative 147 degrees. The number wasn't possible. Absolute zero was negative 273. Her refrigeration unit couldn't achieve temperatures that cold. Nothing could. She stood in the howling wind, 3 in the morning, January darkness complete and suffocating, staring at the digital readout like it might correct itself through sheer force of her disbelief. Her manifest said she was hauling salmon, 12,000 pounds of frozen sockeye from Anchorage to Fairbanks, a routine 4-hour run she'd made 200 times. But the salmon had been screaming for the last 40 miles. Not the way frozen fish should sound when ice crystals settle and crack. These were screams, human screams, dozens of voices, muffled by the insulated walls of the trailer, rising and falling in waves of pure terror. Vanessa had pulled over twice to check the load, convinced someone had climbed into the trailer at the dock, maybe a homeless person seeking shelter who didn't realize they'd freeze to death in minutes. Both times, the trailer was empty except for the pallets of flash-frozen fish in vacuum-sealed packages. Both times, the screaming had stopped the moment she opened the doors. Both times, it resumed exactly 47 seconds after she climbed back in the cab and started driving. Vanessa had called her dispatcher. No answer, just ringing that went on for 6 minutes straight until she hung up. She'd tried her wife, Sarah. Same thing. Endless ringing, no voicemail, like the call was connecting to a phone that existed in a space where time had stopped. The temperature display flickered. Negative 147. Negative 148. Negative 149. It was getting colder inside the trailer. The reefer unit wasn't even running anymore. She could hear its silence beneath the wind. But something was freezing her cargo to temperatures that shouldn't exist. The screaming intensified. Vanessa could make out words now. "Let us out. It's so cold. Please. We can't feel our fingers. It's eating through our skin." Men's voices, women's voices, children's voices, all begging, all terrified. She grabbed a crowbar from her toolbox and approached the trailer doors. Her hands shook so badly she nearly dropped the crowbar twice. The screaming was deafening now, dozens of voices overlapping, and underneath them, a new sound. Something moving in the trailer, something large and heavy, dragging itself across the floor. Vanessa unlocked the doors. They swung open. The pallets of salmon were still there, perfectly arranged, perfectly frozen. But between them, standing in the narrow aisles, were people. Dozens of people. Translucent, like they were made of ice given rough human shape, their features barely distinguishable. They stood perfectly still, their mouths open in silent screams, their eyes dark voids. Vanessa stumbled backward. One of the figures moved, its head turning toward her with a sound like breaking glass. It raised an arm, pointing at her, and its mouth moved. No sound emerged, but Vanessa heard the voice anyway, directly inside her skull. "You're hauling us to where we died." She slammed the doors shut, locked them, ran back to the cab. Her legs felt like water. She'd been driving trucks for 15 years. She'd hauled everything from live cattle to medical waste to classified military cargo. She'd seen weird things on the long hauls, lights in the sky, anima. Unless that didn't match any species she knew, stretches of road that seemed to go on longer than the map said they should. But this was different. This was inside her trailer. This was her responsibility. The manifest was still clipped to her visor. She pulled it down, read it again by the dome light. 12,000 pounds of sockeye salmon, packed January 4th at Northern Fisheries in Anchorage, bound for Tanana Valley cold storage in Fairbanks. Everything normal. Except for a handwritten note at the bottom she hadn't noticed before. Special handling. Do not open trailer between origin and destination. Do not stop longer than 10 minutes. Deliver to Bay 7 only. The handwriting wasn't her dispatcher's. It was old-fashioned, elaborate, like something from a century ago. And the ink looked rust-colored, brown-red, like dried blood. Vanessa's phone buzzed. A text from Sarah. "Where are you? You should have been home 3 hours ago." She checked the time, 5:40 a.m., but that was impossible. She'd left Anchorage at midnight, had been driving less than 3 hours. It should have been around 3 in the morning. She'd lost 2.5 hours somewhere. She texted back, "On the road, something weird is happening. I'll explain when I get home." Sarah's reply came instantly, "You're scaring me. What's wrong?" Before Vanessa could answer, her phone rang. Sarah's name on the display. She answered, "Sarah." "Vanessa," Sarah's voice, but wrong, too flat, emotionless. "You need to complete your delivery." "Sarah, what's wrong with your voice? Are you okay?" "Complete your delivery, Bay 7. Don't open the trailer, don't stop longer than 10 minutes. Sarah's voice, but speaking like she was reading from a script, each word separated from the next by a tiny pause. "Sarah, this isn't funny. What's happening?" "The cargo is temperature sensitive. It must be delivered within the time window or it will spoil. Complete your delivery." "You're not Sarah." Vanessa's voice came out as a whisper. "What are you?" The line went dead. The screaming from the trailer reached a new pitch. Vanessa could feel it now, not just hear it. A vibration in her chest, in her teeth, in her bones. The trailer was shaking. She could see it in her side mirrors, the whole 53-foot box swaying like something inside was throwing itself against the walls. She started the engine. She needed to get to Fairbanks, drop this load, and never think about it again. Maybe she was hallucinating from road fatigue. Maybe there was a carbon monoxide leak in the cab. Maybe she'd fallen asleep at the wheel and this was all a nightmare before the crash. But the temperature display kept dropping, negative 162 degrees, and the ice was spreading. It started at the rear of the trailer, frost forming on the outside of the doors, then creeping forward along the sides, crystalline patterns that looked like reaching hands. The frost spread to the tractor, climbing the frame, coating the fuel tanks, the spare tire, the catwalk. Vanessa watched in her mirror as her truck turned white with ice despite the heater blasting in the cab. She pressed the accelerator, pushed the Freightliner up to 70 on the park's highway. Too fast for the conditions, but she didn't care. She needed to reach Fairbanks, needed to deliver this cargo and be done with it. The radio turned itself on. No stations, just static. Then a voice emerged from the static, old and crackling. "Flight 717, you are cleared for final approach." Vanessa's blood went cold. She knew that phrase. Everyone in Alaska knew that phrase. Alaska Airlines Flight 717, November 1971. The plane had crashed on approach to Fairbanks International, hit a mountain in bad weather. Everyone on board died. 47 people. The radio continued. "Flight 717, do you copy? You're showing below glide slope. Pull up, pull up." Then screaming. The screaming of passengers as they realized they were going to die. The exact same screaming coming from her trailer. Vanessa grabbed the radio. "Who is this? What do you want?" The voice that answered was a child's, young and terrified. "We're so cold. It's been 52 years and we're still so cold. The mountain took us and it won't let us warm up. You're bringing us home. You're bringing us to the place we were supposed to go." The map on her GPS flickered. The route line changed, veering off the park's highway onto a road that didn't exist, a dotted line leading into the mountains. Text appeared on the screen. "Alternate route saves 47 minutes. 47, the number of people who died on Flight 717. "No," Vanessa said. "I'm not taking any alternate routes. I'm staying on the highway." But her hands were turning the wheel, guiding the truck toward an exit she'd never seen before. She tried to stop herself, tried to wrench the wheel back, but her muscles wouldn't obey. Her hands moved independently, possessed by something that wanted her to leave the highway and climb into the mountains. The exit ramp appeared in her headlights, a narrow strip of gravel and ice barely wide enough for her truck. No sign, no route number, just a dark path leading upward into the Alaska range. Her trailer was completely covered in ice now, a frozen cocoon, and the ice was spreading to the cab. Frost formed on the inside of the windshield, intricate patterns that looked like faces, dozens of faces, all screaming. The heater was still blasting, but the temperature in the cab was dropping. Vanessa could see her breath, could feel her fingers going numb. She took the exit. The truck climbed a steep grade, the engine laboring, transmission downshifting. The trees on either side were dead, white and skeletal, covered in ice that made them look like frozen bones reaching for the sky. This road couldn't exist. This grade was too steep, but her truck kept climbing, tires gripping ice that should have sent her sliding backward into oblivion. The GPS showed her position moving off the map into a blank gray space where no roads existed. The estimated arrival time flickered, 47 minutes. Always 47 minutes, no matter how far she drove. The radio spoke again, different voices now overlapping. "This is Captain Morrison, we're going down. Tell my wife I love her. Oh God, we're spinning. I can see the trees, I can see." The transmission cut to screaming, then silence, then a wet crunching sound like metal tearing through frozen flesh. Vanessa's phone rang, Sarah again, she answered. "Help me," Vanessa whispered. "Please, something's wrong, I don't know where I am." "You're almost there," Sarah's flat, emotionless voice. "Bay 7 is waiting, the cargo must be delivered." "Where is Bay 7? There's no Bay 7 at Tanana Valley Cold Storage. There's only 5 loading bays." "Bay 7 is special. Bay 7 is where the cold ones go, the ones who died frozen, the ones who can't ever warm up. You're bringing them home, Vanessa. You're bringing them to their tomb." The line went dead. The road leveled out. Vanessa's headlights found a building, a massive hangar, old and rusted, half buried in snowdrifts. The doors stood open, and inside was darkness so complete it seemed to pull light into itself. Above the doors, barely visible beneath a coating of ice, she could make out faded letters. Fairbanks International Maintenance Hangar 7. Bay 7. This was where they'd stored the wreckage of Flight 717 after they recovered it from the mountain. This was where they'd brought the bodies, the 47 passengers and crew, frozen solid, some of them still in their seats. This hangar had been demolished in 1998. Vanessa knew that because she'd read about it, had seen the photographs of the demolition. This building didn't exist anymore. But here it was, waiting. Her truck rolled forward on its own, engine idling, her feet off the pedals. The trailer lined up perfectly with the hangar doors. The temperature display showed -209 degrees now, a number that meant her cargo should have achieved a state of matter that didn't exist in nature. Vanessa tried to open the cab door. It wouldn't budge, frozen shut, or maybe locked by something that didn't want her to leave. She pounded on the window, screamed, but her voice didn't seem to travel beyond the cab. The ice on the windshield was so thick now she could barely see. The trailer doors opened by themselves. She heard the locks clicking, the hinges creaking. In her side mirror, she watched the pallets of salmon slide out of the trailer on their own, floating, gliding into the darkness of the hangar. But they weren't pallets of salmon anymore. They were bodies, 47 bodies, frozen solid, still in their airline seats, arranged in perfect rows. The translucent ice people she'd seen before walked alongside the bodies, guiding them into the hangar with reverence, like pallbearers at a funeral that had taken 52 years to complete. One of the ice people approached Vanessa's cab. It pressed its face against the driver's side window, features becoming clearer. A young woman, maybe 25, wearing a flight attendant's uniform from the 1970s. Her mouth moved. "Thank you, we can rest now. We're so cold, but we can rest." The ice people carried the last body into the hangar. The trailer doors swung shut. And then the entire building began to collapse, not falling apart but sinking, the ground opening beneath it, swallowing the hangar and everything inside. Snow rushed in to fill the space, and within seconds there was nothing left but a smooth white field. The ice on Vanessa's truck cracked, broke away in sheets, falling to the ground. The temperature display flickered back to 38 degrees. The engine hummed normally. The GPS showed her position back on the park's H. Igwe, 10 miles north of Fairbanks. Her phone rang. Sarah, real Sarah this time, Vanessa could tell by the worry in her voice. "Where are you? You're 4 hours late." I'm almost there. I'll be home soon." "What happened?" Vanessa looked at the empty road behind her, looked at her manifest, where the handwritten note had vanished, leaving only the printed shipping information. "I don't know. I think I delivered something that needed to be delivered." She drove the last 10 miles in silence. When she reached Fairbanks, she went straight to Tanana Valley Cold Storage, backed into Bay 3, opened her trailer. Empty. No pallets, no fish. Just an empty trailer with frost patterns on the floor that looked like people lying down, arranged in rows, peaceful. The dock supervisor checked his manifest. "We don't have any delivery scheduled for you today. You sure you got the right warehouse?" "I guess not," Vanessa said. "Sorry for the confusion." She drove home. Sarah met her at the door, wrapped her in a hug. "You look like you've seen a ghost." "Maybe I have." That night, Vanessa dreamed of the mountain where Flight 717 crashed. Dreamed of 47 people trapped in ice for 52 years, their bodies frozen so deep that even cremation couldn't warm them. Dreamed of them waiting for someone to deliver them to the place they were supposed to go, the place they were heading before the mountain took them. When she woke, her phone had a text from an unknown number. "Thank you, we're warm now." She checked the news. A small article in the Fairbanks Daily News Miner. Construction crew discovers remains near old airport site. Authorities investigating whether bodies are connected to 1971 Flight 717 crash. Families of victims to be notified. Vanessa never hauled refrigerated cargo again. And she never told Sarah what she'd carried that night, what she delivered to Bay 7, the building that didn't exist. The tomb for the ones who died frozen and could never, ever warm up. But sometimes on cold January nights she hears the screaming, distant, grateful, finally at peace. Story 3, The Mirror Convoy. Derek Simmons saw the headlights in his rearview mirror at midnight, 200 miles into the haul road between Deadhorse and Fairbanks. 4 sets of headlights, a convoy running tight formation, too tight for safety. He'd been the only truck on this stretch for the last hour, and the sudden appearance of company should have been comforting, should have been normal. But the convoy was traveling backward. Not backing up, traveling backward, moving south down the haul road at 60 miles per hour with their fronts pointing north, headlights blazing into the darkness behind them, taillights leading the way forward. Derek watched in his mirrors as the impossible convoy closed the distance, moving with perfect precision, 4 trucks in reverse doing what no truck should be able to do. He keyed his CB radio. "Southbound convoy, this is Unit 826. You guys aware you're traveling backward?" The radio crackled. His own voice answered. "Northbound driver, this is Unit 826. You guys aware you're traveling backward?" Derek's hands tightened on the wheel. He hadn't said northbound. He'd said southbound. He was heading south, away from Deadhorse, back toward Fairbanks and civilization. But the voice on the radio, his voice, had reversed it. The convoy was close enough now that Derek could see details. The lead truck was a Peterbilt dark green, pulling a flatbed loaded with drilling pipe. Behind it, a Kenworth with a tanker trailer. Then two more trucks he couldn't identify through the darkness. All of them rolling backward at highway speed, perfectly straight, no wavering. And all of them were exact mirror images of the trucks ahead of Derek. He looked forward through his windshield. 4 sets of taillights in the distance, the normal southbound traffic pattern, the same Peterbilt flatbed, the same Kenworth tanker, the same 2 unidentified trucks. He was looking at the same convoy twice, once ahead of him, traveling normally, and once behind him, traveling in reverse. Derek's throat went dry. He'd been driving for 16 hours straight, which was illegal, which was stupid, but the money was good and the deadline was tight. Maybe he was hallucinating. Maybe he'd fallen into one of those micro-sleeps, and this was his brain trying to wake him up before he drifted off the road. He slapped himself hard across the face. The sting was real. The convoy behind him was still there, still traveling backward, still closing. The CB radio crackled again, multiple voices now, all variations of his own. "You're in the middle, Derek. You're the center point. Were you going forward and you going backward? We're all you. We've always been you." Derek grabbed his phone, called dispatch. The line rang once, then connected to dead air. Not silence, dead air. The specific empty sound of a phone line connected to nothing, to a void where sound goes to die. "Hello," Derek said. His voice didn't echo, it just vanished into the dead air. Then a voice came through the phone, his own voice, but younger, rougher. "This is Derek Simmons, Unit 826, calling in from mile marker 273. I've been driving for 16 hours. I'm not stopping. I can't stop. If I stop, I'll realize I'm already dead." The line went dead. Mile marker 273. Derek checked his odometer. Mile marker 273, exactly where he was. The backward convoy pulled alongside him. Derek looked right into the cab of the Peterbilt traveling in reverse next to him. The driver's seat was empty. No, not empty. There was someone there, but they were facing away, toward the windshield, which meant they were staring at the back of their own truck while driving in reverse at 60 miles per hour. The driver turned around. It was Derek. Exactly Derek, same face, same company jacket, same exhausted expression. But this Derek's eyes were hollow, dark pits, and his skin had the gray tinge of something long dead. This Derek's mouth moved. "You're stuck in the loop. The road caught you. You've been driving this same stretch for 3 weeks now. Your body's in a ditch at mile marker 273. They haven't found you yet." "Bullshit," Derek said, but his voice came out weak, uncertain. He looked down at his hands on the steering wheel. They looked normal, felt normal. He was alive. He was fine. This was just fatigue, just his brain playing tricks after too many hours on the road. The convoy ahead of him stopped. Just stopped, all 4 trucks simultaneously, brake lights flaring red in the darkness. Derek hit his own brakes, the air brakes hissing, the Freightliner shuddering to a halt. He stopped 20 feet behind the last truck, his heart hammering. The convoy behind him, the backward convoy, stopped too. Derek could see them in his mirrors, headlights blazing, perfectly still. He was boxed in. 4 trucks ahead, 4 trucks behind, and the endless black wilderness of the haul road on either side. The driver's door of the truck ahead opened. Someone climbed out. Derek. Another Derek, this one wearing the same clothes, moving with the same tired gait. This Derek walked to the back of his trailer, looked directly at Derek through the windshield and waved. "Come here, come see." Derek didn't want to get out. Every instinct screamed at him to stay in the cab, lock the doors, wait for this hallucination to end. But he couldn't just sit here. He was a truck driver. He was practical. He'd get out, walk up there, prove to himself this was real or not real, and then decide what to do. He opened his door. The cold hit him like a physical thing, 50 below, the air so frigid it froze the moisture in his nostrils instantly. He'd been driving in this cold for years. It was brutal but familiar. Except this cold felt different. This cold felt hungry. Derek walked toward the truck ahead. His boots crunched on ice. His breath came out in clouds that hung in the air too long, as if the air was too cold to allow normal dissipation. Behind him, he heard a door open. Another Derek climbed out of the backward Peterbilt, started walking toward him from behind. "Don't look back," the Derek ahead said. "If you look back, you'll see how many there really are." Derek stopped. How many what? Versions of you? Iterations. The road loops every 16 hours at mile marker 273. You've been dying here every 16 hours for 3 weeks. We're all you, Derek. We're all the same driver, the same death, repeating. Derek looked back. The road behind him was filled with trucks. Dozens of them. Hundreds. Stretching back into the darkness, all stopped, all pointed in different directions, some forward, some backward, some at angles that defied geometry. And climbing out of every truck was Derek. Hundreds of Derek Simmons, all wearing the same clothes, all moving in unison, all walking toward the center point. Toward him. No, Derek whispered. He turned and ran, but his legs were sluggish, the cold sapping his strength. He made it 10 feet before they reached him, dozens of hands grabbing his arms, his shoulders, his jacket. Dozens of versions of himself pulling him down to the frozen road. They didn't hurt him. They were gentle, almost reverent, lowering him to the ice like they were tucking him into bed. One of them, the first one, the one from the truck ahead, knelt beside him. "It's okay," this Derek said. "You don't have to fight anymore. You've been fighting for 3 weeks, trying to stay alive, trying to finish your run. But you crashed at mile marker 273. A moose jumped out, you swerved, your truck went through the guardrail and into the ravine. You died on impact, your neck snapped, it was fast." "I'm not dead," Derek said, but his voice was fading. "I'm right here, I'm alive." "You were Al. Then you were dying, now you're in between. The road caught you at the moment of death and you've been looping ever since. 16 hours of driving, then back to mile marker 273. 16 hours, again. Again. We're all your iterations, Derek. We're all the same death, experienced over and over." Derek tried to sit up, but his body wouldn't move. He looked down at himself. His chest wasn't moving. He wasn't breathing. He tried to take a breath and nothing happened. His lungs were still frozen empty. "When did I stop breathing?" he asked. 3 weeks ago," all the Dereks said in unison. "You just didn't realize it yet." The convoy began to fade. The trucks dissolved like smoke, and the hundreds of Derek Simmons dissolved with them, winking out of existence one by one. The road returned to its normal empty state, just black ice and darkness, and the Brooks Range looming in the distance. Derek sat up. He was back in his truck, hands on the wheel, engine idling. The clock on his dashboard said 12:07 a.m. His CB radio crackled. "Southbound convoy, this is Unit 826. You guys aware you're traveling backward?" His own voice, the same message, the loop starting again. Derek looked in his rearview mirror. The backward convoy was there, 4 trucks traveling in reverse, closing the distance. He looked forward. The same convoy traveling normally, pulling away into the darkness. He was in the middle again. Always in the middle. Always at mile marker 273, the center point between forward and backward, between life and death. Derek reached for his phone to call dispatch, but he already knew how it would go. The dead air. The voice of his younger self warning him, the same loop repeating. He could drive forward. He could drive backward. It didn't matter. In 16 hours, he'd be here again at mile marker 273, watching the impossible convoy, listening to his own voice on the radio. The road had caught him. The road kept him. And Derek Simmons would drive this same stretch of highway forever, dying and driving and dying again. A ghost trapped in the amber of his own final moments, never finishing his run, never reaching home. He pressed the accelerator. The Freightliner rolled forward. In his mirror, the backward convoy kept pace, a perfect reflection, a reminder that on the Hall Road between Deadhorse and Fairbanks, some deliveries never end. Some drivers never stop. They just loop forever in the space between 1 mile marker and the next, between one moment and the same moment repeated into eternity. Derek didn't scream, he didn't cry, he just drove because that's what truck drivers do. Even when they're dead. Especially when they're dead. Story 4, The Wait. The scale at the Yukon Crossing way station showed Christina Wolf's truck at 94,000 pounds. Her manifest said 43,000. Construction equipment bound for a mining operation in the North Slope. But the scale insisted her Kenworth weighed more than double what it should. The state trooper manning the station frowned at his computer screen. "Ma'am, you're overweight by 51,000 pounds. I need you to pull to the inspection bay." "That's impossible," Christina said. "I loaded this myself. I counted every piece. There's no way I'm overweight." "Scale doesn't lie. Pull around back." Christina guided her truck to the inspection bay, anxiety twisting in her gut. Overweight violations meant fines, maybe even impoundment of her cargo, definitely a black mark on her record. But she knew her load. She'd been hauling heavy equipment for 12 years. She'd calculated the weight distribution down to the pound. The trooper walked around her trailer, checking the seals. "When did you seal this?" "Yesterday morning in Anchorage, 11 a.m. "Seals are intact." He looked at her manifest again. "Says here you're hauling compressors, steel pipe, and a portable generator. That should come in around 43,000 like you said." "So what's adding the extra weight?" "That's what we're going to find out. Open it up." Christina unlocked the trailer doors. The hinges creaked as she pulled them open, revealing her cargo: 3 industrial compressors, 40 lengths of steel pipe, and a generator, all secured with straps and chains exactly as she'd left them. Nothing looked disturbed. Nothing looked different. The trooper climbed into the trailer with a flashlight, checking between the equipment, checking the walls. Christina watched from the ground, her breath coming out in white clouds in the October cold. The trooper was thorough, inspecting every inch of space, and Christina's anxiety began to ease. Maybe the scale was malfunctioning. Maybe she'd be on her way in 20 minutes. Then the trooper stopped, his flashlight beam fixed on something at the front of the trailer behind the compressors. "Ma'am, can you come up here?" Christina climbed in. To the trailer. The trooper pointed his flashlight at the floor. There was something there that hadn't been there before, something that couldn't be there because she'd loaded this trailer herself and she would have seen it. A trapdoor. Not a cargo hatch. A trapdoor built into the floor of the trailer about 3 feet square with a recessed metal handle. The edges were so flush with the floor that it was nearly invisible until you looked directly at it. "This your trailer?" the trooper asked. "I'm leasing it from Northern Logistics. I've had it for 6 months. There's never been a trapdoor." "There's a trapdoor now." The trooper knelt down, grabbed the handle, pulled. The door lifted with a pneumatic hiss, revealing darkness below. His flashlight beam probed into the space beneath the trailer floor. There was a compartment down there about 4 feet deep, running the length of the trailer, and it was full. Full of people. Not alive, not dead, somewhere in between. Dozens of figures lay packed together in the hidden compartment, their bodies gray and desiccated, their eyes open but unseeing. They wore clothes from different eras, modern winter jackets mixed with fur parkas from decades ago, jeans and work boots alongside sealskin mucklucks. Their mouths were open, frozen mid-scream. Christina stumbled backward, her boot catching on a pipe, nearly falling. "What the hell is that?" The trooper's hand went to his weapon. "Step out of the trailer, now." "I didn't know that was there. I swear I didn't know." "Out now." Christina climbed down, her legs shaking. The trooper followed, speaking rapidly into his radio. "This is Unit 7 at Yukon Crossing. I need backup and a crime scene team. I've got a trailer full of bodies. Repeat, multiple bodies." "I don't know what that is," Christina said. "I loaded this trailer myself. There was no trapdoor. There were no bodies. I would have seen them." "How long have you had this trailer?" 6 months. I've hauled 30 loads in it. I've inspected it before every trip. There's never been a trapdoor." The trooper looked at her like she was insane. "Ma'am, that compartment didn't just appear. Someone built it into the floor. Someone packed it with bodies. Then they did it in the last 24 hours, because it wasn't there yesterday." 2 more state troopers arrived within 15 minutes, then a crime scene van. Christina sat in the way station office while they swarmed her trailer, photographing everything, carefully extracting the bodies from the hidden compartment. Through the window, she watched them lay the bodies on tarps, counting them, documenting them. 47 bodies, the same number that had been on Flight 717. Christina's blood went cold. She'd heard the stories, the rumors that other drivers whispered about on the CB radio late at night. Cursed cargo. Ghost loads. Trucks that carried more than what the manifest said, carrying weight that shouldn't exist. A detective in a brown jacket came into the office. "Ms. Wolfe, I'm Detective Harmon. I need to ask you some questions." "I don't know anything. I didn't know those bodies were there." "How long have you been hauling for Northern Logistics?" 3 years. "Ever haul anything unusual? Anything off the books?" "No, everything's by the manifest. I don't do illegal runs." Detective Harmon pulled out a file, set it on the table. "These are missing persons reports from the last 30 years. Indigenous people from villages along the Hall Road. Workers from the pipeline. Hitchhikers who were never seen again. 47 people, Ms. Wolfe, and we just found 47 bodies in your trailer." "I didn't put them there." "The seals on your trailer were intact. Nobody opened it between Anchorage and here. So either you loaded them, or they were already in that compartment when you picked up the trailer." Christina's mind raced. She'd picked up this trailer 6 months ago from the Northern Logistics Yard in Fairbanks. It was a standard 53-foot dry van, nothing special. She'd inspected it, looked for damage, checked the lights and brakes. She'd hauled everything in it from lumber to canned goods to this current load of mining equipment. There had never been a trapdoor. "I want to see the trailer," Christina said. "It's a crime scene." "I want to see the trapdoor. I want to see exactly where it is." Detective Harmon studied her for a long moment, then nodded. "Fine, but don't touch anything." They walked to the trailer together. Crime scene techs were still working, carefully bagging evidence, photographing the compartment. Christina climbed up the rear ramp, looked at the floor where the trapdoor should be. It was gone. The floor was solid, one continuous sheet of plywood, no seams, no edges, no recessed handle. Christina stared at the space where the trapdoor had been minutes ago. The compressors and pipes were still strapped in place, undisturbed. But the flow, or beneath them, showed no sign that it had ever opened. "Where's the door?" Christina asked. A crime scene tech looked up. "What door?" "The trapdoor, the compartment. Where did it go?" Detective Harmon stepped closer, examining the floor with his flashlight. His expression shifted from suspicion to confusion. "It was right here, 3 feet square, metal handle." "There's no door here," the tech said. "Floor's solid, we checked it." "You pulled bodies out of a compartment under this floor 20 minutes ago," Detective Harmon said, his voice rising. "I watched you do it. I took photographs." The tech pulled out a digital camera, scrolled through the images. His face went pale. "Sir, the photos are gone. Every photo I took of the compartment, it's just blank. The bodies are there on the tarps outside, but the images of the compartment, the trapdoor, they're all black. Empty." Christina felt the world tilting. She grabbed the side of the trailer to steady herself. "Where did the weight come from? Your scale said 94,000 pounds. We unloaded 47 bodies. That's at least 7,000 pounds of extra weight, probably more. Where did it go?" They walked back to the weigh station. The scale operator ran Christina's truck across again. The digital display flickered, calculating. 43,000 pounds, exactly what the manifest said. The trooper ran it through a second time. Same result, 43,000 pounds. "I recorded 94,000, the scale operator said, checking his log. "Right here, 12:15 p.m., 94,000 pounds. But now the truck weighed what it should have weighed all along." Detective Harmon looked at the bodies laid out on tarps, looked at the blank photographs, looked at Christina's trailer with its impossible solid floor. "What the hell is happening here?" One of the crime scene techs approached, her face ashen. "Detective, we've got a problem. The bodies are deteriorating, fast, look." They walked to the nearest body, a man in a modern winter jacket. His gray, desiccated skin was turning to ash, flaking away, collapsing inward. As they watched, the body crumbled, dissolving into fine black powder that the wind caught and scattered. Within 30 seconds, the body was gone, leaving only the empty clothes. All 47 bodies were doing the same thing, crumbling, dissolving, turning to ash and blowing away across the weigh station parking lot. "No," Detective Harmon said. No, this isn't possible. Get samples. Get tissue samples before they're all gone. The tech scrambled, but the decay was too fast. By the time they had gloves on and sample bags ready, the bodies were gone. Nothing remained but empty clothes arranged in the shapes of people, flattened on the tarps like discarded costumes. Christina sat down hard on the asphalt. Her hands were shaking, her throat was dry. What was in my trailer? Nobody answered. The detective tried to collect the clothes as evidence, but when he lifted a jacket, it crumbled like the bodies had, fabric turning to dust, buttons scattering. Every piece of clothing dissolved within minutes, until there was nothing left but empty tarps and the memory of what they'd seen. Detective Harmon turned to Christina. Drive that trailer to Fairbanks, straight to our impound lot. Do not stop. Do not open the doors. We're going to have that floor x-rayed, cut open if we have to. There's a rational explanation for this. But his voice lacked conviction. Christina drove to Fairbanks in silence. The trailer behind her felt different now, heavier in a way that had nothing to do with physical weight. She kept checking her mirrors, expecting to see something wrong, some sign that the cargo had changed again. But the trailer rolled normally, the seals remained intact, the weight stayed at 43,000 pounds. At the impound lot, a team of mechanics and investigators swarmed her trailer. They x-rayed the floor. Solid plywood and steel, no compartment, no hidden space. They cut into the floor with power tools, solid all the way through. They measured, probed, tested. No trapdoor, no compartment, no evidence that there had ever been space for 47 bodies. Detective Harmon took Christina's statement 3 times, each time asking the same questions, getting the same answers. Finally, at 3 in the morning, they let her go. "We'll hold the trailer pending investigation," Harmon said. "You can pick up a rental from Northern Logistics. Don't leave the state." Christina drove to a motel, collapsed on the bed, and didn't sleep. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the gray bodies, their open mouths, their unseeing eyes. Saw the weight on the scale, the impossible weight, the weight of people who shouldn't have been there. 3 days later, Detective Harmon called. "We're releasing your trailer. Investigation concluded. No evidence of wrongdoing." "What about the bodies?" "What body?" We have no bodies, no photographs, no physical evidence. The other troopers and I agree we saw something, but without evidence, there's no case. Whatever happened at that way station, it's not something we can prosecute." Christina picked up her trailer. The floor looked normal, everything looked normal. Northern Logistics gave her a new load, automotive parts bound for Deadhorse, routine, safe. She loaded the cargo, sealed the trailer, and began the drive north. At the Yukon Crossing Way station, she held her breath as the scale operator ran her across. 48,000 pounds, he said. "You're good to go." Christina exhaled. 48,000 pounds, exactly what her manifest said. She drove north, and for 3 hours, everything was fine. Then at mile marker 219, her trailer started making noise. A scraping sound, like something dragging. Christina pulled over, grabbed her flashlight, walked to the back of the trailer. The seals were intact. The doors were locked, but she could hear something inside, moving, shifting, dragging across the floor. She put her ear against the metal, heard voices. Dozens of voices, whispering, begging, crying, heard the words clearly. "So cold, been so long, want to go home, take us home." Christina stumbled backward, her breath coming in short gasps. She ran to the cab, grabbed her phone, called Northern Logistics. "I need a different trailer. Now, something's wrong with this one." "What's wrong with it?" "There's something inside. I can hear it. I need to switch loads." "Christina, your seals are intact. You just got weighed. Everything's fine." "Everything's not fine. There's something in my trailer that shouldn't be there." A long pause. Then, "Christina, are you aware that the trailer you're hauling used to belong to a different company? We bought it at auction 3 years ago. It used to run freight up and down the Hall Road in the 70s and 80s. Before that, it was used to transport equipment for the Flight 717 recovery operation." Christina's blood turned to ice water. "What?" "The trailer you're driving, it's old, real old, 50 years old. We refurbished it, but it's got history. Drivers have complained about it before, hearing things, feeling extra weight. We thought they were just superstitious. You knew about this, and you assigned it to me anyway. There's nothing wrong with the trailer, Christina. It passes inspection every year. It's just old. Old things have history. Christina hung up. She stood on the side of the Dalton Highway in the October darkness, the Brooks Range looming like broken teeth against the stars, and she understood. The trailer wasn't just carrying cargo. It was carrying weight that couldn't be measured on a scale. The weight of people who died in the cold. The weight of people who were never found, never recovered, never brought home. The trailer had been there, had been part of the recovery, and somehow it remembered. Somehow it kept a record, a ghost manifest of everyone who traveled in it or near it, everyone who died in the cold Alaskan wilderness and never made it home. Christina climbed back into the cab. She couldn't unhook the trailer. She was contractually obligated to deliver the load. So she drove. She drove north to Deadhorse, delivered the automotive parts, and drove back to Fairbanks with an empty trailer. An empty trailer that weighed 96,000 pounds at the Yukon crossing scale. The trooper frowned at the number. "Ma'am, something's wrong with our scale. It's showing you at 96,000, but you're running empty." "Yeah," Christina said, "something's wrong." She never drove that trailer again. Told Northern Logistics she was done, quit her contract, sold her truck, and moved to Arizona where it's warm and dry and the roads don't remember the dead. But sometimes, late at night, she still hears the voices, the whispers, the begging, the weight of all those people who never made it home, still riding in trucks up and down the Dalton Highway, still looking for someone to notice them, to acknowledge them, to carry them to where they were supposed to go. The weight never leaves. It just transfers from one driver to the next, from one truck to the next, forever hauling its ghost cargo through the frozen darkness. Some weight can't be unloaded. Some weight you carry forever. Even when the scale says you're running empty. Story 5, The Voice. James Holloway's GPS had been giving him directions in his dead brother's voice for the last 90 miles. Not a recording, not a mimic. His brother Michael's actual voice, with the slight lisp on S sounds, with the way he drew out vowels when he was tired, with the exact intonation that only 37 years of being twins could teach you to recognize. "In 1 mile, take the exit toward Fairbanks," Michael's voice said through the truck's speaker system. "You're making good time, Jamie. REAL good time." Michael had been dead for 14 months. Aneurysm. Died in his sleep, age 41, no warning, no goodbye. James had identified the body at the morgue, had given the eulogy at the funeral, had watched them lower his brother into frozen ground outside Anchorage. Michael was gone. So why was his voice telling James to take the next exit? "This isn't happening," James whispered. He reached for the GPS, intending to shut it off, restart it, make it go back to the default female voice it had been using since he'd installed it 3 years ago. "Don't turn me off, Jamie," Michael's voice said. "I need to tell you something important. Keep driving, I'll explain." James's hand froze. The GPS couldn't know he was about to shut it off. The GPS couldn't respond to unspoken intent, but Michael always could. The twins had shared an uncanny connection their whole lives, finishing each other's sentences, knowing when the other was in pain or danger even across distances. "How are you doing this?" James asked the empty cab. "I'm not sure," Michael's voice admitted. I think I'm still here somehow, in the signal, in the satellites. I died, yeah, but part of me didn't go wherever we're supposed to go. Part of me got stuck in the transmission, Jamie, in the space between the satellites and the ground, and I've been trying to reach you. You're not real. This is grief. This is me having a breakdown." "In 300 feet, merge onto Highway 2, Michael's voice said, and the GPS screen showed the turn. "Remember when we were kids and we used to play that game where we'd stand in separate rooms and try to send thoughts to each other? You were always better at it than me. You'd know what I was thinking before I thought it. Well, I'm thinking real hard now, Jamie. I'm thinking you need to listen." James's eyes burned. He'd cried for 3 days straight after Michael died, then never cried again. Had to be strong. Had to keep working. Had to keep hauling freight up and down Alaska because that's what you did when you lost someone. You kept moving, kept driving, kept existing because stopping meant feeling it all. What do you want? James asked. Turn right in 500 feet, Michael said. I want you to know something about the day I died, something nobody knows. James took the turn, following the GPS directions even though they were leading him off his planned route. The road narrowed, climbing into the foothills of the Alaska Range. No other traffic, just darkness and his headlights cutting through October snow. I wasn't asleep when I died, Michael's voice continued. The doctors said it was an aneurysm, that I never knew what happened, that it was peaceful. That's a lie, Jamie. I was awake. I felt it. Felt the pressure in my skull, felt the blood vessel burst. I had about 45 seconds of consciousness after it happened, and you know what I did with those 45 seconds. What? James's voice was barely a whisper. I tried to call you, grabbed my phone, found your contact, pressed dial, but my hands weren't working right anymore. Everything was shutting down. I couldn't make my fingers work. The phone slipped out of my hand, and I lay there listening to it ring. You didn't answer. You were driving, probably. You always are. Michael. It's okay, I'm not mad, but I need you to understand something. In those 45 seconds, I learned things about what happens when you die. It's not heaven or hell or nothing. It's transmission, Jamie. We're all signals. Our consciousness, our thoughts, our souls, whatever you want to call it, it's electromagnetic. And when the body dies, the signal doesn't stop. It just gets released into the waves, into the satellite network, the cell towers, the radio frequencies. We become ghosts in the machine. The road climbed steeper. James's GPS showed him miles from the nearest town, heading into wilderness. He should have turned around, should have gotten back on the highway, but he couldn't stop listening to his brother's voice. There are others here with me, Michael said. Thousands of us. Dead people who got stuck in the transmission, bouncing between satellites, living in the microseconds between data packets. We can see everything, Jamie. Every phone call, every GPS route, every text message. We're in all of it all at once, and we've been trying to warn people. Warn them about what? In 2 miles, your route will be blocked, Michael said. There's been an avalanche. 3 other trucks tried to pass through tonight. They're buried under 30 feet of snow. I can hear them, Jamie. I can hear the drivers screaming in their cabs, slowly freezing, slowly suffocating. They've been calling for help, but there's no signal where they are, except me. I'm the signal, and I can help you avoid them. James's mouth went dry. If there's been an avalanche, I should call it in. Get rescue teams out there. Why? Oh, should, but you won't get through. The mountain's blocking the signal, except for GPS. GPS works on different frequencies, uses different satellites. I can reach you through GPS. So I'm going to guide you around the avalanche. There's an old mining road closed to traffic, but it'll get you past the blocked section. Trust me, Jamie, I'm your brother. I've always looked out for you. The road ahead disappeared into a wall of snow and rock. Michael was right. An avalanche had torn down the mountainside, burying the highway under tons of debris. James could see the tail end of a trailer sticking out from the snow, red paint barely visible. Turn left in 100 feet, Michael's voice said. There's a gap in the guardrail, take it. James saw it, a break in the guardrail, and beyond it, a narrow dirt road climbing into the mountains. No signs, no markers, just a dark path leading into the wilderness. I don't know about this, James said. You never know, Jamie. You never trust your instincts. You always need proof, need evidence. But I'm asking you to trust me. I died. I learned things. I'm trying to help you. James slowed the truck, considering. He could stop, wait for rescue crews to clear the avalanche, lose a day but stay safe. Or he could trust his dead brother's voice coming from a GPS unit, follow a closed road into the mountains, and hope it led somewhere. He turned left. The mining road was barely wide enough for his truck, branches scraping the sides, potholes threatening to snap an axle. But the road was there, and it was leading him up and around the avalanche site. That's it, Michael said. You're doing great. Another 3 miles and you'll reconnect with the highway past the blockage. Why didn't you tell anyone else? James asked. Why didn't you warn those other drivers? I tried. They didn't listen. Their GPS units weren't compatible, or their radios were on different frequencies, or they just thought they were hallucinating. But you listened, Jamie. You always listened to me. The mining road climbed higher, the trees thinning, the snow getting deeper. James's truck struggled, tires slipping on ice, engine laboring. He should have brought chains, should have been prepared. But Michael's voice kept encouraging him, kept telling him he was close, almost there, just a little further. Michael, how long are you going to be stuck like this? In the transmission. Silence, static crackled through the speakers. Then, forever probably, there's no escape. We're trapped in the signal until the satellites fall or the network collapses or the sun goes out. We're ghosts, Jamie. We haunt the frequencies. That's horrible. It's not so bad. We can see everything, talk to each other. We're building a kind of society up here in the microseconds. Some of us have been here since the first satellites went up in the 50s. They teach us, show us how to navigate the network, how to reach out to the living when we need to. Most of the living don't listen. But family can usually hear us. The road leveled out. Through the trees, James could see the highway below, clear and open past the avalanche site. Michael had been telling the truth. The route worked. Turn right in 200 feet, Michael said. You'll merge back onto the highway. You'll be safe. James took the turn, his truck bouncing over ruts, descending back toward the main road. Relief flooded through him. He was going to make it. His brother had saved him. Michael, thank you. I don't know how this is possible, but thank you. You're welcome, but Jamie, there's something else you need to know. The reason I've been trying so hard to reach you. What? You need to stop driving. Tonight, right now, go home. Don't take any more runs for a while. Why? Because in 3 days, on your next run up the Dalton Highway, you're going to fall asleep at the wheel. Mile marker 193, 3 in the morning. You'll drift into the oncoming lane, hit a fuel tanker head-on. You'll die instantly. So will the other driver. I've seen it, Jamie. Up here in the transmission, we can see probable futures, paths that haven't happened yet but probably will. And I've seen yours. James's hands tightened on the wheel. That's not certain. I can change it. You can by not driving, by staying home, by resting. You're exhausted, Jamie. You've been taking too many runs, sleeping too little, drinking too much coffee and not enough water. Your body's breaking down. In 3 days, it'll give out. You'll fall asleep and you'll die. I need the money. I've got bills, payments, I can't just stop. You can, you have to. I died at 41. You're 41. We're twins, Jamie. Identical twins. Our bodies are the same. Our genetics are the same. What killed me can kill you. Not the same way, but just as final. I'm begging you. Stop driving. Rest. Let your body recover. James merged back onto the highway. Other T. Rucks passed him. Normal traffic. Unaware of the avalanche behind them. Unaware that James had just driven a route that shouldn't exist, guided by a brother who was dead. I'll think about it, James said. Don't think, do. I'm your brother. I've never steered you wrong. You died and left me alone. I didn't choose to die, but I'm choosing to warn you now. Please, Jamie, stop driving, go home, live long enough to be old, to be something I'll never get to be. The GPS screen flickered. Michael's voice distorted, breaking up. Signals fading. I can't hold on much longer, too far from the satellites. Jamie, promise me you'll stop. I promise, James said, tears streaming down his face. I promise, Michael. Good, I love you, brother. I'll always be in the signal. Whenever you need me, just listen. I'll find a way to reach you. The GPS screen went blank. The voice changed back to the default female tone. In 2 miles, take exit 47 toward Fairbanks. James pulled over at the next rest stop and cried for the first time in 14 months. Cried for his brother, for himself, for the impossible conversation they just had. When he was done, he called his dispatcher and quit, effective immediately. He was done driving. Done with the long hauls, the sleepless nights, the endless miles of darkness. He went home to Anchorage, slept for 16 hours straight, and woke feeling more rested than he had in years. 3 days later, he saw the news, a fatal accident on the Dalton Highway, mile marker 193. A truck driver fell asleep at the wheel, drifted into oncoming traffic, hit a fuel tanker. Both drivers died instantly. The truck driver's name was Derek Walsh, 43 years old, from Fairbanks. James stared at the article. That should have been him. Would have been him if Michael hadn't warned him, hadn't guided him off the road, hadn't convinced him to stop. His phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. "You listened, thank you, love you, brother, M." James tried to reply, but the number showed invalid. He tried to call it. The line was disconnected. But the message was there, proof that something had reached him, something that cared enough to save his life. James never drove a truck again. He got a job in a warehouse, local work, regular hours, home every night. He started sleeping better, eating better, living instead of just surviving. And sometimes, late at night, his phone would buzz with texts from Michael, updates from the space between satellites, stories about the others trapped in the signal, warnings about traffic accidents, weather events, dangers to avoid. James always listened. Because some bonds don't break when the body dies. Some connections transcend the physical, live in the transmission, in the electromagnetic waves that connect all of us. His brother was dead. His brother was also alive in a way that defied explanation. And James was grateful for both truths. He drives past cell towers now and thinks about the thousands of voices trapped inside, bouncing between antennas, living in microseconds, watching over the people they loved. He thinks about his brother still looking out for him, still being his twin even across the barrier between life and death. And whenever his GPS speaks, James listens. Just in case Michael has something else to say. Just in case the dead aren't really gone, just transformed, just transmitting from a place we can't see, but sometimes, if we listen carefully enough, we can hear.